This is Annapolis, and these are the midshipmen who make up the brigade of the United States Naval Academy. These are their stories, full of their laughter, their heartache, their tragedies and triumphs. The stories of the men of Annapolis.
Jane, suppose you tell us, from reading his works, what insight you've gained into Goethe the man.
Frankly, after fighting my way through the first dozen pages of his travels in Italy, I came to the conclusion that he was a pompous bore.
You should have fought on to the Roman Carnival. There's nothing pompous about that. Goethe pompous? I don't think so. Grandeur he had, to be sure. But he had too rich a sense of humor ever to be pompous.
Sense of humor, Goethe?
Listen to this. Plucked from Act 1 of Faust. We are feeble things on insect wings, but that never yet dismayed us, for we're pert little nippers and carry sharp clippers, as Satan our papa bade us. Yes, he had humor. Just as, in my opinion, all the greats have it. Be they writers, scientists, statesmen, what have you. Come to think of it, it's an attribute that's shared also by the great nations and institutions.
Dad?
Hello, son.
Before you get too deeply into your favorite theory, may I talk to you alone?
Certainly. Excuse me? What is it, Dev?
I'm in. It came.
It?
The result of the entrance exams to the Naval Academy. I passed.
Well, that's wonderful, son. Not that I ever had any doubts at all with your scholastic record. Of course, you're going to accept?
Of course I am, Dad. You know how long I've had my heart set on a naval career.
Ever since that summer I took you and your mother to Coos Bay, and you had your first look at the sea. We originally intended to go to Yellowstone. I don't know why we changed our minds. Maybe the Academy's going to be a lot different than anything you've known here, son. Discipline, regimentation, more discipline.
I know, and I know I won't mind it. I've been accepted by the Academy. I'm proud of that. Tremendously proud. Aren't you, Dad?
I am. Deeply, son. The Academy's a great institution.
Dear Dad, almost from the first day we've drilled. We were pretty ragged to begin, but it's amazing how quickly we've improved. We go sailing on Chesapeake Bay often. It's wonderful to think that such a pleasurable activity is part of the curriculum. Not many academic subjects are taught during the summer session, but my marks in these subjects continue high. The summer seems to have flashed by. Academic year starts tomorrow, and today the upperclassmen are arriving back in droves.
Hi, Dad.
Hi, Ernie. Mike.
Get with the repoints, boy. First day of the academic year, and the upperclassmen are already out for plebe blood.
Why? What happened?
The scuttlebutt is the segundos already put one of us lowly plebes on report.
Why?
The plebe didn't brace to the segundos' liking.
Probably exactly what Ernie called it. Scuttlebutt.
Maybe so, but we're taking no chances. We're going to bone up on those professional questions. You're bound to get some asked you at chow. What's the latitude of Annapolis?
The latitude of Annapolis is 38 degrees, 58 minutes, 53 seconds north.
Right. What's the longitude?
The longitude is 76 degrees, 76 degrees. Gosh, the first question in the book and I don't know the answer.
Longitude is 76 degrees, 29 minutes, 8 seconds west.
Boy, you got it made, Deb. No wonder you're not worried.
You know the answers to all the other questions?
Most of them, I guess.
How do you like that? Not only is he a star with a 3.5 average, but he's an expert on plebe knowledge.
Real greasy. The upperclassmen are going to love our debris.
The upperclassmen have nothing to do with it.
What are you talking about?
I learned this stuff because it was interesting, not because of the upperclassmen.
Oh, well, it's the same thing. You'll know the answers when you get asked.
Well, I don't think we're going to get asked. The upperclassmen must have more important things to do than to fire a lot of questions at us plebes.
You really think that?
Sure.
You believe they won't be on our necks telling us to brace and square the corners and all that stuff?
No, I tell you, they have more important things to do. They're not going to spend all their time writing us. They know how we feel. Not so long ago, they were plebes themselves.
I hope you're right, but I don't think you are.
I don't think you are either. Let me ask you something, Dev. Do you know your table salt as well as you know the professional questions?
Table salt.
Well, the question's further back. Here's one. How's the cow?
Oh, that nonsense about she walks, she talks, she's full of chalk. No, I didn't learn it.
Suppose one of the upperclassmen were to ask you to recite it. What are you going to do?
No one would ask us to recite that stuff.
Suppose just for a minute somebody did. Would you learn it?
Of course not.
Midshipman Scott?
Here. Midshipman Carl Brenner requests my presence immediately. On the double.
He's your first classman.
On the double.
Yeah. Hey, you know what room he's in?
3259.
I think our roommate Dev is in for one big rude awakening.
In just about 1 minute from now.
Midshipman Scott, 4th class, sir.
At ease, Mr. Scott. No doubt you've been informed that I'm your first classman.
Yes, sir.
You know what that means?
You're my advisor. You give me hints on the maintenance of my room and my personal appearance. Help me adjust to the schedule. Steer me straight.
That's correct. You know, I've looked at your academic record, Mr. Scott, and it's impressive. I don't think you require much help on that score.
Thank you.
In fact, I don't think you require much help on any score from me. Where are you from?
Oregon, near Portland, sir.
I'm from California. Know Oregon quite well. I worked in a lumber camp there a couple summers ago.
I hear that can be rugged.
Well, it can be. As a couple of Westerners, Mr. Scott, I think we should get on well. You know the future come-around routine?
Yes, sir. I report to you 5 minutes before each meal formation.
That's correct. Any questions?
No, sir. No questions.
You're dismissed.
Thank you, sir.
What happened?
Nothing. He liked me, I liked him. We got along fine.
A first classman liked a plebe?
Did he make you brace? Didn't he chew you out for having an imaginary speck of dust on your uniform?
Of course not. I tell you, the upperclassmen aren't monsters. They're human beings like you and me.
Dev's right about this. What are we studying for?
Yeah, what are we studying for?
Chow, let's go.
What's your impression, Mr. Burke? They've scraped the bottom of the barrel for this year's crop, Mr. Miller. Sound off, mister.
Midshipman Lawrence, 4th class, sir.
Rise, mister. Brace when you rise, mister. Sound off again, mister.
Midshipman Lawrence, 4th class, sir.
How many panes of glass in Memorial Hall, Mr. Lawrence?
498.
Why didn't you say sir?
I meant to, sir.
There's another reply to that question, mister. Do you know it?
I think so, sir.
Quote it.
Sir. Sir is a subservient word surviving from the surly days in Serbia, in old Serbia, when certain serfs, too ignorant to remember their lord's names, yet too too servile to blaspheme them, circumvented the situation by...
Is that the extent of your knowledge on that particular subject, Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, sir.
You intend to enlarge upon your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
When?
By next meal.
Let me sit down, mister. Sound off, mister.
Midshipman Gray, fourth class, sir.
What's a Christmas tree, Mr. Gray?
The instrument panel on a submarine used to indicate the opening and closing of vent valves, flood valves, and hatches, sir.
Discourse on the vulgar establishment of Annapolis.
It is the approximate length of time between the transits of the full moon and the next high tide, at exactly 4 hours and 42 minutes, sir.
Very good. Be seated, Mr. Gray. Sound off, mister.
Midshipman Scott, fourth class. Sir.
What is the latitude of Annapolis, Mr. Scott?
38 degrees, 58 minutes, 53 seconds north. Sir.
And the longitude?
76 degrees, 29 minutes, 8 seconds west. Sir.
Very good. How's the cow, Mr. Scott?
I don't know, sir.
You'll mean you will find out, don't you?
I mean, sir, that I do not know.
I see. You'd better come around to my room, Mr. Scott, and straighten this out. 2000 sharp.
Aye, aye, sir.
Belay that, mister. Brace. What's up, Mr. Scott?
I don't know, sir.
You will come around to my room at 20:30. Sit down, mister. Sound off, mister.
Midshipman Spanner, fourth class, sir.
What's up, Mr. Spanner?
Fidelity is up and obedience is down on our bayonet belt buckle, sir. I told you, Dev. We're plebes. We've got to do what the upperclassmen say.
Mike's right. The book says rank hath its privileges.
Rank has its responsibilities. It says that in the book, too. What right have they to ask us a lot of silly questions?
Regardless, Dev, you can't buck 'em. This come around is only the beginning. Next comes extra duty and demerits.
I don't care. I'll buck 'em. And I'll win, too.
Halt, mister. Aren't you aware that you're supposed to give way to an upperclassman, Mr. Scott?
Yes, sir.
You're supposed to walk in the center of the corridor. Why didn't you?
I forgot, sir.
Come-arounds don't seem to improve your memory, Mr. Scott. I'm placing you on report. Carry on. One bell, Mr. Spanner.
Brace up, sir.
2 bells, Mr. Lawrence.
Carry on, sir.
3 bells.
I'd rather be a plebe than a youngster on cruise, sir.
4 bells.
Port, side light, mast, head, lights, bright lights, life buoy, watch alert, sir.
5 bells.
Starboard side light, main truck lights, bright lights, life buoy, watch alert, sir.
6 bells.
Whoop. 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 Whoop.
7 bells.
7 bells and all is well at Carvel Hall, sir.
8 bells.
Colors.
12 bells.
Happy New Year, sir.
Very good. Seats. What's up, Mr. Scott?
According to the dictionary, up has many definitions, sir. As an adjective, up primarily denotes direction of movement contrary to the direction of gravity, that is, radially away from the center of the Earth. Specific uses of up are...
Belay that. We're indebted to you for your research into the word up, Mr. Scott. However, I wanted the definition of what's up, as given in reef points. Do you know it?
No, sir.
The passage is a short, simple one. Since you've demonstrated your ability to quote something far more complex, I assume you do not intend to learn it. Correct, mister?
Yes, sir. That is correct, sir.
Then I have no recourse other than to place you on report. Sit down, Mr. Scott.
sound off, mister.
Midshipman Scott, 4th class. Sir.
So you're Mr. Scott. Do you know that all plebes are required to square corners?
Yes, sir.
You aware that you just neglected to do so?
Yes, sir.
I'm placing you on report. Carry on.
I don't understand you, Mr. Scott. What are you trying to prove?
That a plebe has his dignity, sir. That because certain midshipmen are his upperclassmen, it doesn't give them the right to walk all over him.
Why does that have to be proven? Why, it's implicit in the Academy rules.
Apparently, a lot of the upperclassmen either don't read the regulations or ignore them if they do.
Now, let's get down to specifics, Mr. Scott. In what instances have you been walked all over by your upperclassmen?
They're almost too numerous to mention. But particularly, I've been ordered to answer a lot of humiliating questions at chow time.
Table salt?
Yes, sir.
It's a tradition for upperclassmen to ask plebes those questions, mister.
Sir, it's a tradition that could well be abolished.
This questioning business probably seems childish to you. But behind it is a principle that is fundamental to military. Military life involves life or death split-second decisions, and orders related to these decisions. Until we learn to carry out such orders intelligently, without questioning the authority of our upperclassmen, we can't consider ourselves qualified for the grave responsibilities of command.
I'm sorry, sir, but I just can't go along with that.
You're confusing what I mean by tradition. Now look, you face facts, mister. You could be a fine naval officer, but at the rate you're picking up demerits, you're gonna dilge out by midterm. Now, do you want that to happen?
No, sir. But if that's the price I have to pay to keep my dignity, then I'll pay it.
Where's Dad?
The usual, walking off extra duty.
Poor guy.
Did he tell you about the argument he had with his first classman over tradition?
Yeah.
That bit about sails versus steam vessels made sense to me.
Ernie, do you think what Dev's doing is right?
What's more, I wish there was something I could do to help him.
What is there to do?
I've got something.
What?
We could really confuse him by refusing to answer questions exactly like Dev.
You and me?
You, me, every plebe at the table.
You think the others would go for it?
They're all rooting for Dev. I'm sure they would if we ask them. Take two.
Mr. Lawrence. How's the cow?
I'm not prepared to say how the cow is, sir.
You were prepared to say last night, mister. What happened in the interim?
I'm not prepared to say, sir.
Mr. Scott. How's the cow? Mr. Gray. How's the cow? Mr. Spanner. How's the cow? It appears, Mr. Burke, we have a plebe uprising on our hands. It does indeed, Mr. Miller. What shall we do, put them all on report? It's possible they've been misdirected. I suggest they be allowed until morning to reconsider their attitude. Seats, gentlemen.
Out of your room.
The fellows in my room decided to ignore this 10 o'clock lights out for once. We're staying up.
What are you gonna do?
Talk, whatever we want. We're rousing the other plebes, too. They'll be here in a minute. I thought we'd make this a breakaway tradition night, Dev. You know, discuss what we'd like them most to do away with.
What do you have in mind?
Well, some of the fellows think, 6:30 hours is pretty early to get up in the morning. What do you say we talk about that?
Great idea.
I got another one.
Let's hear it.
I don't see why right through plebe year we're not allowed to drag. Now, here's what I think we ought to do. so. I'm all for making it official that plebes can drag on at least Fridays and Saturdays.
Great. Now, what about the places that are off
Hey,
limits?
wait a second, Ernie, wait. Let's hear what Dev has to say on the ideas already proposed. Dev?
Speech, Dev.
Speech, come on,
Let's
let's
have
go.
a speech.
If there's a speech to be made, I'll make it. It'll be short and to the point. Place these men in report, mister. Violation of taps. Stand fast. Well, I'm disposed to make a longer speech after all. The word has filtered through to me that certain plebes seem to resent being asked questions by their upperclassmen. I suspect that this gathering is an outgrowth of that resentment. I don't intend to go fully into the reasons behind this procedure, the tradition behind it, the fact that it sharpens your memory, that it teaches you discipline. What I do want to point out is this. Until you have learned to take orders from your upperclassmen, you cannot hope to give orders properly to those who will be under you in your future command. That is all, gentlemen. Dismiss.
What is it, Mr. Scott?
Sir, after great thought on the matter, I've decided to tender my resignation from the academy.
I see. Despite the fact that your classmates have embraced academy discipline wholeheartedly, your attitude still hasn't changed.
No, sir.
Well, that's too bad. The battalion officer talked to me about you. He was inclined to think you would change.
The battalion officer spoke to you about me, sir?
You have exceptionally high academic marks, mister. The Navy doesn't like to lose men of your caliber. In fact, the battalion officer wrote to your father about you.
He wrote to my dad?
Have you talked to your father?
No, sir.
Well, then I suggest you keep this resignation until you do.
It won't make any difference. All right, sir.
Hello, son.
Hello, Dad. This is a surprise.
I got a disturbing letter from Captain Allen, and, well, I thought the sensible thing to do was fly here and see you. What's the trouble?
I'm resigning. I guess I just can't take the discipline.
I see. When you came here, you knew there'd be discipline. You were quite certain you wouldn't mind it.
I didn't expect it to be administered by other midshipmen.
Once you've accepted the basic requirements of discipline, what difference does it make who administers it?
Well, I've heard that argument, Dad, and a whole lot more besides. Strangely enough, I've accepted them. They're all pretty valid.
Then I can't understand what your beef's about.
What's the type of order we're expected to carry out? The questions the upperclassmen expect us to answer.
So it boils down to a matter of questions. Can you give me an example?
Yes. How long have you been in the Navy?
Sounds innocuous enough. What are you supposed to answer?
All me bloomin' life, sir. Me mother was a mermaid, me father was King Neptune. I was born on the crest of a wave and rocked in the cradle of the deep.
Son, you're well aware of my philosophy that the great people, nations, and institutions of this world share one thing in common, a rich vein of humor.
Yes?
Frankly, I had qualms about the Academy on that score. But I shouldn't have. Obviously, it's a great institution. It's your decision to make, Dev. But if I were you, I'd beg the Academy to let me stay here.
Seaweed and barnacles are me clothes. Every tooth in me head is a marlin spike. The hair on me head is hemp. Every bone in me body is a spar, and when I spits tar. I is hard, I am, I are.
Very good. Sit down, Mr. Scott.
This is Annapolis, the United States Naval Academy, proud of its dignity, its history, its traditions, but most of all, proud of its men. Next week, we will bring you another story of the men of Annapolis. Plebe Scott was played by Ralph Reed. Ernie Lawrence by Tommy Ivo. Mike Spanner was played by Rick Devon.